guys, it's Katie, and I welcome to day one of my 100 subscribers celebration week. Today's video is going to be all about my Booktube experience and Booktube journey, kind of squishing them together. A couple of people in the comments kind of wanted to hear about my overall experience and kind of just how I got here in the first place. But I'm going to put a little bit of a disclaimer on this and say that there's going to be some interesting Booktube commentary in here, so just be a little bit warned about that. So my journey began on July 12th of 2017, and that was the day, it was a Tuesday, I put up my first video, which was the Booktube newbie tag. It's on here as well. But I originally had it on an older channel, which, you know, had my name on it and stuff, and it was a mixture of like all kinds of stuff. It was books and music and some other like weird vloggy things or whatever. But then I realized, you know, because of the law school thing, that I didn't want people to just kind of look up in my channel and just find all this stuff, because you never know what can come back and whatever. So what I did is I ended up moving all of my bookish videos to this channel and then just putting everything else on private just to make my life easy. And I created this channel back in March 3rd of 2018. I think that's when I officially started uploading everything. I started moving all of my stuff here and then just kind of started over. Some of the people that followed me over on my older channel followed me here, which was really, really nice, and I'm really grateful to them. I know. So that's kind of how I got here. As for my experience hasn't been exactly negative. It's been more positive than anything else. It helps that I think it helps that I have a smaller subscriber count and not too many people talk to me regularly. I think on average I get about like 5 comments per video, which is totally and completely 100% fine with me. I really enjoy talking to those people. It would be nice to have, you know, a few more people to interact with, but I'm for the most part really satisfied with the people that I talk to on a regular basis. But the reason I say it's pretty positive is because I think, as I said, I haven't really gotten any like weird spammy comments. I've gotten a few, but they're pretty uncommon. I don't get a lot of like people hating on me for, you know, my opinions or really on my videos or anything, which is also really nice. I found a really, really great friend group here so far, and I talk to several of them regularly. So I mean, I've created this lovely little community for myself, and in a way, because of that, I'm sheltered from a lot of the other stuff that goes on Booktube. Like, I'll see people talking about it on Twitter or like in their videos or something, but it's not something that I've necessarily 100% experienced. But that being said, there are a few things about Booktube that I think are a little bit that make it harder for certain people. There seems to be this stigma that goes around that makes you feel like you have to be and act a certain way in order to get subscribers or get, you know, a good following. Like, you look at most booktubers and they're really enthusiastic and excited. I mean, you look around at most booktubers and they're really, really excited and passionate and very, very excitable all the time, and they're really entertaining to watch. And I think that the people who tend to be a little bit more soft-spoken or more, not necessarily down to earth, but very calm and, you know, relaxed, I guess, they tend to get a little bit short-drifted, I think, because of one reason or another. I mean, the way I portray myself in my videos versus what I actually am in real life are, I don't want to say different, but I'm actually a very, very easily excitable person. But the problem is if I were to get super, super excited in a video, you wouldn't understand a thing I was saying to you, because I eat my words, I mumble, and it's not a good time. It wouldn't be a good time for anybody. But I think I try to put out excitement in a quieter, calmer manner. You know what I mean? but it just seems to be people like me just tend to go on the wayside. But also on the other hand, like people who are really, really phenomenal at editing and graphics and things, they also tend to catch people's eye really, really easily. Or someone like me who is not good at editing and just rarely does thumbnails because they're just really annoying to do and to make. And I'm like, why am I doing this? The YouTube ones are usually fine, or they're at least amusing for people to take a look at. A lot of people put time and effort into their channels. In fact, it can be argued that everyone does. But when you are a full-time student or are working full-time or something like that, you don't have the time to do all of those kinds of things, but you're no less part of the community. But we just either get ignored, like smaller booktubers either just get ignored or just kind of left out in the cold. Like, people will talk to you if you comment on their videos, but then they don't come and reciprocate when it comes to you for whatever reason. I mean, they talk about being more inclusive, but then they're not. They're selective about their inclusivity. It's a complicated thing, I think. And this is not what this video is supposed to be about at all. But I mean, it's just something I felt like I should bring up because my experience as time has gone on, like talking to people and seeing things on Twitter and seeing other people's videos, and they bring up topics like this, it starts to seep into who you are as a booktuber, whether or not the thing affects you or applies to you or not. And so I mean, my experience has been positive because I have my really good friend group, and people do for the most part interact on my stuff, and that's really, really nice. Seeing my regular friends pop up in my comments or up in my notifications, like after I get out of class or something, or talking to them on Twitter, because there are a few people I talk to regularly on Twitter, and it just gives me happy. Even though it's a small group, I tend to like smaller groups in certain aspects of the word. So I mean, I know a lot of people. Like, I'm just one of those people who is very, very social by nature. People flock to me, whatever. And I find it less so online, which is interesting because a lot of people say the opposite. But it's interesting that is something that happens to me, and I'm totally fine with it because I have a nice balance regardless. Going back to my experience, I'm part of a community that is quite large. SFF community is quite large and extensive on YouTube, but the problem with that is because there are so many of us, people are always looking for similar things, and a lot of us put out similar content in just different ways. And there are certain people that other YouTubers seem to flock towards versus others, even though we're, all part of the same community. And it goes back to that, like, our community is very fragmented, and it's something that I've noticed on a very, very minuscule level, but because I am satisfied with the community that I'm part of and the friends that I've made, it's made my experience a little bit more positive. And then sometimes it's hard because I just have to sit back and remind myself that this is a hobby. This is something that I do for fun in my free time. It's not like a job or something like that. It's just something I started out to do because it was something that I was thinking that I'd enjoy, and I do enjoy it. But sometimes it gets really stressful because I've noticed that as a reader, some things about myself have changed. Some in positive ways and some in very negative ways. Like the positive ways, for instance, I've become in some ways a more natural critical reader, even though I don't read critically. Maybe it's a combination of hearing other people's opinions and talking to people, but also going to law school. You can't help but be an analytical and critical reader. And I mean, that's good in some ways, but I mostly, like, when I read a book for pleasure, I read a book for pleasure. I base it on how much did I like this book versus how much did I not like it, and I rarely look at other things besides that. However, one way that Booktube has kind of negatively impacted me is because of the rating system. I'm constantly sitting there reading a book and I'm like, okay, how am I going to rate this as I'm reading? I'm like, okay, I'm liking this element and this element and whatever, but I don't like this thing. And it takes the enjoyment out of reading almost. It's like you feel like you have to say things in a certain way and think about things in a certain way. It's no longer just reading for fun. It's reading with an agenda. And I do that enough for school. And so I'm trying to find ways to change that while also continuing to, enjoy posting things. And I think I'm on my way to finding a nice happy medium for it. We'll see how it goes as time goes on, but for right now I'm feeling a little bit more satisfied in my reading, a little bit. And I think it also helped that I'm no longer doing TBRs. I'm reading within constraints, but freer constraints, if you know what I mean. So like I've planned out a year-long TBR. I'm like, these are the books that I absolutely want to get to this year, with a few exceptions, and then just kind of reading them whatever strikes my fancy when. So I mean, things like that. Also, and I find that like community events like readathons and tome top on like things like that are really, really nice as a community, but I also hate how crunched most readathons are. Like a week is usually just not enough. Like I can understand a month-long one, but a week-long readathon is just, for someone like me, a disaster. I can't read a ton in a week, first of all. Second of all, I don't like to cram read and speed read. I like to enjoy my book and, read it at such a pace where I can enjoy it and absorb it. And you can't really do that during readathon. So I mean, while I love them and you find new people through them and whatever, they're also a nightmare. And so I find myself wanting to participate but also not wanting to participate. You know what I mean? So overall, I think, as I said, my personal experience is for the most part really, really positive. I really like, as I said, the friends that I found here and just kind of how everything is morphed and, where I'm at generally. But then there are those other elements that I brought up periodically, and there's probably a lot more I can talk about, and I might do it at some point. I haven't decided yet. About other specific aspects of Booktube that I don't think make our community what it could be. We're all different factions, and a large majority of the people on Booktube read YA, just in general. And I read some too, but I'm one of those readers that reads across all different subcategories. And I mean, that's another thing. I never really thought about those specific gradations before joining Booktube. Like, that's just not something that I thought about. I was like, if a book sounds interesting, I'm gonna pick it up, or I'm gonna add it to my list, or whatever. And now people just constantly throw around, oh, well, this is middle grade, this is YA, this is adult, and this is like all of these like subcategories and whatever. I'm like, what? I don't know. I just take a little bit of an issue with it. Just to wrap up briefly, overall, really positive experience on Booktube because of the friend group that I got myself in and the way that my expectations have kind of changed over time. But there are some issues that I have noticed throughout the community, and there are things that I think could change to make it a more welcoming place. But then again, I know that some of the things that I mentioned are not realistic fixes because you can't change someone else's mind, or you can't force someone to like something. So I mean, while I might have my own issue with them, and I try and fix them in my own life and my own channel, you can't do it with someone else. So I just have to be satisfied with where I'm at for now, and for the most part I am. Are there a few changes I'm thinking about making? Sure. But I do this for fun as a hobby, and I sometimes feel like I have to put more pressure on myself to get out videos and get out content on a regular basis. I need to just chill out a little. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want to talk to me about any of the things I talked about today, feel free to leave a comment below or come find me on social media, which I have both linked below. I have a Twitter and a Goodreads. Twitter is probably the better option for conversations. But other than that, I'll catch you later with a video again soon. Bye!